after being dumped. I hated Liu Ruyan for 3 whole years. 3 years. Later at the family's celebration banquet, amidst a crowd of lowly servers, I caught sight of her. That day full of alcohol and arrogance, I stepped on her hand and said, "Liu Ruyan, 3 years ago, when you cast me aside, did you ever think of today if you kneel down and beg me right now I'd give you a chance?" She obediently did, as told, but when she knelt and smelled the tip of my shoe, her eyes held only an ash-like stillness. But I couldn't for the life of me understand that day was the celebration banquet where I officially took power. The elite and high society were all present on the yacht to suck up me. Some guy, eager to win my favor, had called over a line of low-ranking female servers to pour drinks, and right there among those women in cheap uniforms, I spotted her. 3 years ago, she was the arrogant one who demanded we break up, the top socialite of high society, Ruyan. 3 years without seeing her, she had wasted away, skin and bone. The face that once used to captivate the elite circle was now as white as a sheet of paper. She wore a baggy, oversized uniform, standing blankly in the corner like a hollow corpse, completely drained of vitality. Over 10 young masters in the VIP room simultaneously recognized Liu Ruyan, the former top socialite, now fallen into the mud. These spoiled rich kids, the ones who weren't even worthy of her sparing an extra glance, suddenly grew hyped. So Tianwu picked up a glass of burning strong alcohol and splashed it straight onto Liu Ruyan. "Oh, isn't this the once sky-high arrogant Miss Liu? Kneel down and lick the spilled alcohol off the floor, and this young master will reward you with 10,000 yuan. Liu Ruyan stood frozen and placed the hot liquid dripping down along her hair. She didn't dodge. Taking advantage of the alcohol, they started ganging up on her, even with one guy rushing forward intent on tearing her clothes. The wine glass in my hand shattered completely, glass shards stabbing deep into my palm, but I felt nothing. I stared at her intently. I had once sworn that once I achieved success and fame, I would definitely make her pay back 100-fold for the humiliation I once endured. But when I actually saw her being trampled by others, I was the very first to flip the banquet table over. "Get the hell out." Spat out those 2 words, and the entire hall fell dead silent. I took step after step toward Liu Ruyan, reaching out to grab her chin tightly, forcing her to look up. 1 million yuan to buy your time tonight. I gritted my teeth, glaring straight into those empty eyes. "Come with me." Liu Ruyan blinked slowly, showing no resistance, no shame, nor anger, just reacting with utter calmness as she uttered a single word. "Okay." At that moment, I felt as though my chest had been stabbed by a vicious dagger, making even breathing drip with blood. I brought Liu Ruyan back to my mountain villa. The second the door slammed shut, I shoved her hard against the door panel, driven by alcohol. I savagely tore apart her uniform. I wanted to see her cry, wanted to see her curse at me like she did back when she was high and mighty. "Get out, Liu Ruyan. Didn't you look down on me for being poor back then?" My eyes were bloodshot. "Didn't you ditch me because of Zhao Tianwu's family background back then? Why the hell have you fallen to this state?" Now Liu Ruyan didn't struggle at all. As her clothes slipped down, a bone-chilling cold wave spread outward, was about to step forward to humiliate her further. My movement suddenly froze, my gaze landing on her bare back. There was no smooth, lady-like skin, but instead a crisscrossing mess of whip marks, along with countless coin-sized burn scars, densely packed together, looking utterly blinding and terrifying. My brain instantly went blank. What on earth had she been through over the past 3 years? Even though the Liu family's bankruptcy was tragic, it certainly wouldn't cause her to endure such inhumane abuse. I lunged forward, grabbing her right hand tightly. She instinctively shrank back. That hand, the hand that once played piano in the grand halls of Vienna, at this very moment had its knuckles severely deformed, the joints swollen and protruding. That was the sequela of a comminuted fracture that wasn't properly treated and healed on its own, resulting in deformity. Her hand was crippled. Hearing that made my voice tremble uncontrollably. Liu Ruyan slowly withdrew her hand, pulling back her tattered clothes. She raised her head. her gaze as calm as a stagnant pool of water. Jixianxing, take the money and go. 1 million just like you, said. She couldn't even be bothered to look at me, another time caring only about the money. The former elite socialite, who would once disdainfully throw away 1,000,000 yuan without bothering to stoop down and pick up a coin, was now standing before me like this, disregarding even her life for money. Both my hands, hidden in my sleeves, trembled violently. I plucked out a checkbook, wrote down 10 million yuan, and hurled it straight into her face. From today on, you are a servant. Here, 1 million buys you for a month. This is the money for 10 months. Within these 10 months, I'll make your life a living hell. The check fluttered down to the ground. Liu Ruyan slowly squatted down, her deformed fingers laboriously picking up that fragile piece of paper. Thank you, Jixiansheng. Over the next half-month, I grew increasingly ruthless in torturing her. I fired all the domestic help in the villa, across the thousands of square meters garden. I forced her to cut the grass, all by herself. I even deliberately brought back different women to spend the night, making her stand by bed and pour water for us. I thought she would break down, but not at all. She was like a wind-up machine, tireless without letting out a single cry of pain. Today was my private, all-night party. The villa was plunged into dim lighting and the smell of alcohol. I held a rising female star in my arms while sitting at the center of the sofa. Ruyan, wearing skimpy clothes, carried a tray of wine as she walked among the crowd. Tianwu also arrived. He seemed to still not have given up his intentions. Taking advantage of when I wasn't paying attention, he stretched out his leg and tripped. Yunuyan bung an entire tray of champagne, poured all over her, and shards of glass scattered everywhere, embedding straight into her calves. You blind piece of trash. How do you walk? Shao. Tianwu cursed, loudly raising his hand to slap her. I forcefully pushed my lover away and lunged forward, grabbing Shao Tianwu's wrist tightly. With a snap, I broke his hand right on the spot. His miserable, blood-curdling scream echoed throughout the living room. Get out! I swept my gaze across the entire room. All of you get the hell out. In less than a minute, the villa was deserted. The spacious living room was left with only me and her. Liu Ruyan sat amidst wreckage, fresh blood trickling down her calves and staining the carpet red. Yet she didn't even bother to frown. Once, she quietly pulled out glass shard stuck in her leg, casually ripped off a rag, pressed it against the wound, and then picked up a broom to start sweeping up the shattered pieces on the floor. Stop sweeping. I snatched the broom away, smashing it hard against the wall. I stared intently at her, my heart aching as if it were about to split apart. Liu Ruyan, what on earth is wrong with you? Don't you feel pain? She paused her movements, slowly looking toward me. Pain? She smiled indifferently. Jixiansheng, poor people have no right to feel pain. Finished speaking, she turned around and continued using her deformed hands to pick up each piece of glass. Right at this moment, a drop of bright red blood fell onto the pristine white tile floor. Not blood from her calf, but blood flowing out from her nose. Immediately after came the second drop, the third drop. She hurriedly used the back of her hand to wipe it, but the more she wiped, the more it bled, until finally she coughed up a large mouthful of black blood, her entire body staining red as she collapsed onto the floor. Liu Ruyan. I lunged forward like a madman to catch her. Her entire body was burning like a furnace with a terrifyingly high temperature. I picked her up and ran straight for the car, speeding like crazy toward the Ji family's private hospital. The emergency room lights stayed lit for 4 whole hours. When the doctor stepped out, his expression was extremely grim. Jizong, the patient's condition is extremely critical. Severe malnutrition, multiple organ failure, and the shattered bones in her right ring finger are old injuries. The doctor paused, his voice heavy. The most fatal part is that there is a massive residue of inhibitory drugs in her blood. She seems to have been using an illegal drug that hasn't been released to the market for a long time. Drilling in. This thing is draining her life away. Inhibitory drugs, illegal drugs. I grabbed the doctor by the collar. What do you mean? Is she suffering from a terminal illness? It's not really a terminal illness. It's more like she's acting as a human guinea pig testing drugs for someone else. Testing drugs. Like a bolt from the blue, it hit me. She was a proper high society socialite. So why would she fall to the point of going to the black market to live as a guinea pig for drug testing? What on earth did she want with my 10 million yuan? I rushed into the hospital room. Liu Ruyan was still unconscious. I rummaged through the pile of dirty clothes she had just changed out of and found an old phone inside the lining. Its screen shattered like a spider web. I tremblingly entered the password I was most familiar with, my own birthday. The screen unlocked. There weren't any social media apps at all. There was only a downloaded software called bone marrow donation and special medication trading. I tapped into the chat history. The oldest message stopped at 3 years ago, precisely 1 day after she dumped me and announced her engagement to Xiao Tianwu. She had messaged a black market middleman. The Zhao family wants his life. I can give it to them as long as you guys ensure Jibadat's blood transfusion surgery succeeds and his life is saved. Don't tell him about it. Just tell him I gold dug and looked down on him for being poor. As for the inhibitory drugs, I will take them on time, no matter how much it hurts. Absolutely do not cut off his medication. The last message sent to the doctor last night. I can't hold on much longer. How much longer until his long-term medication finishes being researched? I still have 10 million in my hands. Buy my life. In exchange for his medicine. The phone slipped from my hand, falling onto the cold tile floor. The screen completely shattered. I stared blankly at the pieces, glinting on the ground, my chest feeling like it was being sliced over and over again by a dull, rusty knife. 3 long years. 3 years of betrayal, of gold digging and scorning poverty that I had imagined. All of it was actually because she dug her own grave, just to save me. She sold her life to the black market to test drugs in my place, swallowing poisons that corroded her internal organs, just to exchange them for clean antidotes to slip into my mouth, using her battered body to trade for me to live until this day. And yet I used the very life she traded for to trample her underfoot, subjecting her to all sorts of humiliation. I made her cut grass across thousands of square meters. I made her stand by and watch me cuddle with other women. I even condoned Chao Tianwu embedding glass shards into her calves. I staggered out of the hospital room, leaning my back against the cold corridor wall, raising my hand to deal myself. Ruthless slap after slap. Over a dozen consecutive strikes landed. The corridor echoed with the ear-piercing sound of slaps. Corner of my mouth bleeding, both cheeks swollen. The feeling of pain stimulated my nerves, yet it didn't even amount to 1/10,000th of the remorse in my heart. I just wanted to chop hands off. The chief physician rushed over, hugging my arm. Please calm down, sir. Miss Liu's life is still saved. I whipped around, grabbing his lab coat, my eyes bloodshot like a cornered beast, pushed against the wall. Save her, use the full might of the G family's assets, mobilize the world's best specialized drugs, and bring all the top foreign experts here for me. If you can't save her life, your entire hospital will be buried with her. The doctor lowered his voice, speaking right next to my ear. Yizong, don't make a fuss. The matter of the Zhao family poisoning you back then hasn't been settled yet. They even have moles inside the hospital. Once Miss Liu's drug testing for you is exposed, they will definitely make a move to silence her. The Zhao family. Xiao Tianwu, his arrogant face flashed through my mind. My jaws clenched together with a crack. I shoved the doctor away, forcefully, straightened. My suit sniffled, wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, my gaze chilling to the point of freezing over. Take care of my affairs outside, I said loudly enough to ensure moles posing as nurses at the end of the corridor could hear every word. Liu Ruyan lives or dies offended me. I threw her into the basement of the mountain villa, cutting off her water and food, so she could wait to die down there. The doctor understood immediately, nodded in cooperation. Understood, Jizong. We'll process her discharge right now and transfer her straight down to the basement. That very night, dozens of heavy trucks secretly advanced toward the mountain villa. I stayed up all night spending 1 billion yuan to transform that dark basement into a sterile treatment room of the highest global standard. The life support systems, imported from Germany, were transported by air right through the night. Switzerland's top Medical team was brought straight into the villa in my private jet. All the walls were replaced with the highest grade, one-way, bulletproof glass. I had to use the world's most expensive drugs to forcefully pull her life back. Detected intense craving. From the host, the divine tycoon medical system has been activated. Target-bound Liu Ruyan currently. Every time, the host spends 10 million for the target. They can exchange it for 1 drop of vital primordial fluid. A cold mechanical voice suddenly echoed in my head. I froze for a second, then roared like a madman. Exchange, use all the working capital. In my account, throw it all in. There. Exchange successful. 100 drops of vital primordial fluid have been injected into the target's body. The target's rate of decay is reduced by 90%, and vital signs are temporarily stable. Looking at the indicators gradually stabilizing on the monitor, I let out a long, shuddering sigh of relief. Outside, rumors began to spread widely. Everyone was whispering that the cold-blooded head of the G family was torturing his old flame to a life worse than death. During the day, I sat in the general manager's office of the G Corporation, playing the role of a cold-blooded tyrant. Xiao Tianwu sent people to probe around a reckless department head holding fake document approached. Jaizong, I heard that the girl from the Liu family is down in your basement and won't last many more days. He smiled ingratiatingly, but his eyes revealed distinct calculation. I grabbed the steaming teacup off the desk and threw it straight into his face. He clutched his face, screaming as he collapsed, scalded red over a large area. I stood up and planted 1 foot on his chest, grinding the sole of my shoe down hard. She's just a lowly bitch dying. In the basement is already a blessing for her. Is it your turn to meddle in my personal affairs? Now get lost and tell your master to stop testing the limits of my patience. Terrified, that guy crawled away, fleeing the office. The news would quickly fly to Xiao Tianwu's ears. The Zhou family would completely lower their guard. But at night, I would dismiss all the bodyguards and walk down the basement alone. Through the one-way glass, I took off my suit jacket looking like the humblest believer, my bloodshot eyes staring fixedly at the emaciated figure hooked up to all those tubes on that hospital bed. She lay motionless, there the faint fluttering rise and fall of her chest, being my only reason to live. I pressed my face against the icy cold glass, tears silently falling onto the floor. Ruyan, I'm sorry. Hang in there just a little longer. I'm about to make the Zhao family pay in blood. At midnight. On the 3rd day, a piercing alarm siren ripped through the darkness of the basement. The red warning lights flashed frantically. On the surveillance monitor, Liu Ruyan woke up. She looked around the enclosed walls, her eyes filled with extreme despair. She thought she had truly been locked up by me in the basement to be tortured. She thought those drops, flowing into her veins, were gut-wrenching poisons. Her deformed hands trembled as she raised them, gripping tightly onto the infusion tube connected straight to her vein. My heart leaped out of my chest. Fresh blood instantly gushed out, staining her sterile gown red. The vital signs monitor shrieked the alarm sound, blaring a piercing flatline. My vision blurred, like a madman. I blasted the door of the sterile room open, lunging forward to press down hard on her gushing wound. "Are you out of your mind?" I roared, my voice shattered. Liu Ruyan looked at me weakly, the corners of her mouth forcing out a smile even uglier than crying. "Jixianxing, I'm so tired. Let me go." Even begging for death, she was still so submissive. My heart hurt so much that my whole body trembled, tears almost spilling out of my eyes. But I caught sight of a camera in the corner of the wall. Joe's hacker was still trying to breach the villa's internal network. I couldn't let it slip, absolutely. But I forced my tears back down inside. Switching to a fierce, menacing expression like a demon, I grabbed her chin using so much force that it felt like I would shatter her jawbone. "Want to die, Liu Ruyan? The life you owe me still hasn't been fully paid back. You dare try to die today if you dare close your eyes tomorrow. I'll make the entire Liu family be buried along with you. That vegetable younger brother lying in that nursing home, I'll personally pull a breathing tube out of him." Liu Ruyan trembled violently, deeply provoked, her eyes finally welling up with fear and fury. "Jibadat, you beast!" She bit her lower lip so hard that it bled, large teardrops rolling down. "Yes, I am a beast," I laughed coldly. instructing the doctor to step in and reconnect the tubes. So you'd better obediently live for me, live, to see with your own eyes how I torture you. I turned around and strode out of the sterile room. The moment the door shut, I leaned my back against the wall, sliding down, sit flat on the floor, both hands clutching my face, to suppress the choking sobs in my throat. I'm sorry. Only by hating me will you have the survival instinct. Only by letting you hate me can I keep you alive. I struck the wall hard with a punch, my knuckles smeared with blood. Family, this debt is finally time to settle. Half a month later. The year-end summary conference of the G Corporation. The entire elite circle and media were in attendance. Undercurrents surged. Lately, the Zhao family had been frantically swallowing up the remaining industries of the Liu family. The eyes and ears of Chao Tianwu had reported on her death. They were utterly convinced that I had completely discarded Liu Ruyan. The banquet hall was brightly lit with festive lights. I sat at the host's seat, my eyes coldly watching the sinister faces below. The conference was halfway through when the heavy redwood doors of the banquet hall were kicked open with a loud bang, thunderous sound, interrupting the speech on the podium. Tianwu strode in wearing a disheveled wine-red suit, looking arrogant, holding a death certificate stamped with a red seal in his hand, followed by dozens of reporters carrying cameras and gear, flagrantly and swaggering in. Jizong throwing a year-end party, and you didn't even invite me. Zhao Tianwu laughed arrogantly, slamming the death certificate hard onto the conference table. Everyone pause for a moment. Today, I want to announce to everyone a shocking piece of news. He turned around to face the flashing camera lenses, his eyes overflowing with crazy, smug triumph. The former top socialite of high society Liu Ruyan was tortured alive to death in the basement by our cold-blooded Jizong, and her corpse is already rotting away. Camera flashes blazed brilliantly across the board. Every eye in the room simultaneously turned toward my face. The eager reporters, like a school of sharks smelling fresh blood, rushed forward. Jizong, may I ask if what young Master Zhao said is true? Did you really resort to unlawful detention resulting in homicide? I sat motionless on the large leather chair, tapping my fingers lightly on the tabletop, watching the petty, triumphant face of Chao Tianwu, and let out a cold laugh. The 70th annual banquet was held in the capital at the most luxurious Angxin Hotel. The crystal chandelier on the ceiling emitted a brilliant glow. Hundreds of high society elites holding glasses of champagne gathered in groups of 5 or 3, whispering softly. Zhao Tianwu suddenly caused trouble, shattering the fake peace. He leaped onto the main stage, violently snatching the MC's microphone. The ear-piercing screech, hearing at everyone's eardrums. Everyone take a good look at this. Zhao Tianwu waved the document stamped with a bright red seal, arrogantly in his hand, deliberately shoving the document right into the lenses of the reporters in the front row. Jibadat, I made with Liu Ruyan until bitten raw to the point of bleeding my heart. Softened completely to the death. The Liu family is now completely extinct. This is the will that Liu Ruyan signed during her lifetime in black and white, written as clear as day. Final core patents of the Liu family belong to the Zhou Corporation. The reporters below immediately surged like a pack of sharks smelling fresh blood. Countless fluorescent camera lights aimed right in my face microphone, foam covers almost pressing against the tip of my nose. Jizong, may I ask if the will presented by young master Zhao is true? There are rumors that you locked the eldest Miss Liu in the basement and tortured her to death. May I ask if the police have stepped in yet? Is the Ji family financial titan planning to swallow up the final heritage of the Liu family? Bald tycoon, who had always backed the Zhou family, also chimed in, shouting, Jizong murder must be paid for with life. The Liu family was once the top great family after all. Our methods are just too vicious. I leaned back into the large leather chair, crossing my legs, tapping my fingers lightly and rhythmically on the table, my cold, indifferent eyes watching Chao Tianwu like a clown, jumping around and barking nonsense, disregarding the piercing, incessant questioning going throughout the hall. Seeing that I was silent, Hao Tianwu grew even more arrogant. He strode right up to me, arrogantly pointing straight at my nose. Gibadet if you don't hand over patent documents right here and now. Don't even think about walking out of this door. The entire high society is watching this, you murderer. The Tycoon medical system announces target Liu Nuyan has completed the deep cell regeneration process. Current status perfect. Toxin suppression progress 100%. Appearance reconstruction complete. Custom haute couture evening gown has been fitted. Preparation complete. A cold mechanical voice echoed in my head. I slowly stood up, unhurriedly buttoning up my custom-tailored suit jacket. Zhao Tianwu? I grabbed a tall-stemmed wine glass off the table and hurled it hard right at Zhao Tianwu's feet. The crisp, shattering sound of glass quickly drowned out all the noise in the banquet hall. Blood-red wine splashed all over his trouser legs. Who told you that Liu Ruyan is dead? Right on cue. The heavy rosewood doors of the banquet hall were slowly pushed open by several bodyguards in black suits. A blinding flood of strobe lights immediately shone straight toward the entrance. Amidst the silence, everyone's eyes simultaneously turned toward the door I strode, away from the host's chair passing through. The staring gazes to head toward the door. I extended my right hand, porcelain white slender flawless perfect hand, that gently rested on the palm of my hand. That hand, which had once been severely shattered and deformed, had now recovered entirely to its original state, thanks to the regeneration of vital fluid from the system. I held Liu Ruyan's hand as we walked step by step on the red carpet. She wore a priceless haute couture evening gown, embedded diamond dust on the skirt hem reflecting, brilliant dazzling light under the lights. After half a month of top-tier recuperation and system recovery, her once pale, hollow cheeks now bloomed with vitality, her skin as white as snow, her eyes as bright as stars. The top socialite who once shook the entire high society years ago had now risen from the ashes like a phoenix, even more dazzling and radiant than 3 years ago. The entire elite circle present simultaneously gasped in a breath of cold air. Wine glasses dropped clattering onto the ground, the sound of shattering echoing endlessly one after another. Liu Ruyan, isn't she supposed to have been locked up in the basement and tortured to death? Oh my God, does this look like someone who's about to die? She was breathtaking beyond description, even her hands completely intact and whole, even brighter than 3 years ago. The entire elite society present simultaneously gasped in shock. Wine glasses crashed heavily to the ground, the sounds of shattering ringing out endlessly. Liu Ruyan, wasn't she locked in the basement and tortured to death? Too delicious, even more fragrant than the breakfast sold outside. From now on, will I be able to eat breakfast made by you every day? Zhao Tianwu is lying. The arrogant smile on Zhao Tianwu's face instantly froze. The forged will in his hand dropped heavily to the ground. He stared with both eyes wide open at the stage, as if he had seen a ghost. Impossible. This is completely impossible. My people clearly saw her stop breathing with their own eyes. You found a body double, right? It's definitely a body double. I took Liu Ruyan's hand and stepped the center of the stage, violently snatching the microphone out of Zhao Tianwu's hand, pulling Liu Ruyan securely behind my back. All of you in high society, prick up your ears and listen clearly to my voice transmitted through the top-tier sound system to every corner of the hall. Let me solemnly reintroduce this person. She is the wife whom I Jibadat have properly married, and also the sole mistress of the G Corporation financial titan. The entire hall gasped in shock. The reporters frantically pressed their camera buttons to record this truly shocking moment. Zhao Tianwu's legs turned to jelly as he instinctively retreated backward. You're crazy, Jibadat. You're actually crazy back. Then she dumped you for money. So how can you still dare to treat her like a precious treasure? You cuckold, going out to pick up discarded trash to wear. Zhao Tianwu, you're at death's door and still dare to bark nonsense. I snapped my fingers. The giant electronic screen behind the stage suddenly blazed with light. The footage was razor sharp. It was surveillance camera footage from 3 years ago recording. Tianwu sending his lackeys to poison my drink, played in high definition. On the screen, Zhao Tianwu with his own hands poured a packet of white powder into the glass. Immediately after the scene shifted, the transfer history, paying off the dark organization BlackRock, along with an audio recording of Zhao Tianwu bribing the hospital to forge medical reports. Every single piece of evidence, every single act was brutally exposed before media and the elites. All right then, young Master Zhao. This batch of inhibitory drugs is lethal poison. Miss Liu drinks this, she won't live past 3 years. In the audio, recording the voice of the Black Rock middleman was gloomy and chilling. Never mind that, as long as we can kill that bastard Jibadat. If that bitch volunteers to test drugs in his place, then just let her test them. The arrogant voice of Xiao Tianwu echoed throughout the hall. The entire hall plunged into a dead silence and erupted into thunderous waves of condemnation. The Zhao family actually dared to pull such a despicable stunt, colluding to poison and assassinate, while also forcing the socialite of the Liu family to test drugs. They've truly lost all their humanity. Call the police immediately. Call the police and arrest him. The elites who had just been standing next to Tianwu instantly scattered like they were avoiding a plague. A special assistant strode onto the stage, handing over a tablet. Jizong, the stock of the Zhao Corporation, is being comprehensively shorted. Hitting rock bottom in just 3 minutes, the Zhao family is finished. I took the tablet and hurled it straight at Zhao Tianwu's face. The Tianwu's face turned as white as a sheet of paper. His legs went limp, and he directly lapsed onto the stage floor, cold sweat drenching his high-end designer shirt. Ding detected that the host has completed an extreme face slapping. Reward: a core secret document of the Zhao Corporation has been sent to the host's inbox. Additional reward: 50 drops of vital primordial fluid. System's notification sound only made the smirk at the corner of my mouth deepen. Guards. I coldly spat out 2 words. Hand this attempted murderer over to the police. Several muscle-bound bodyguards surged onto the stage, gripping Xiao Tianwu's collar tightly, dragging him out of the hall, just like dragging a dead dog. Let me go. I am the eldest young master of the Zhao family. Tianwu struggled desperately. Tears and snot smeared all over his face. Jibadat, you won't die a good death. That bitch Liu Ruyan should have gone to hell long ago. I covered Liu Ruyan's ears. Should have gone to hell long ago. I covered Liu Ruyan's ears, not wanting her to hear those filthy words of his. Right as the bodyguards were about to drag him out of the banquet hall doors, amidst wailing and screaming, the Tianwu, like a mad dog driven into a corner, suddenly lowered his head and sank a lethal bite right into the bodyguard's wrist. The bodyguard cried out in pain and let go. Sao. Tianwu seized the chance to break free, drawing from his sleeve a black venom-coated dagger, his 2 eyes bloodshot as he roared and lunged straight at me. Jibadat! I'll drag you down with me. Distance was too close. The sudden event happening far too quickly. The entire hall screamed in panicked, terrified shrieks. I hurriedly, reflexively raised my foot, intending to deliver a kick, but right at that lightning-fast moment, a dazzling blue-gowned figure suddenly threw herself into my arms. Liu Ruyan! Without a single hesitation, she shielded right in front of me. The venom-coated dagger grazed past her arm, ripping open her expensive high-end evening gown and trailing a spurt of blood that terrified everyone to their core. Get lost. My eyes webbed with red veins, my entire body's muscles instantly tensing up as I unleashed a brutal kick, striking straight into Xiao Tianwu's chest, with several crisp snapping, crack sounds. Several of Xiao Tianwu's ribs broke completely, his entire body flying backward like a kite with a broken string, over a dozen meters away, slamming hard against the rosewood doors and coughing up a mouthful of fresh blood, completely passing out. Ruyan. I hurriedly embraced the girl in my arms, just about to check the wound on her arm, and she suddenly clutched tightly onto the lapel of my jacket. Her cheeks, which had just been rosy a moment ago, instantly drained of all color, turning as white as a sheet of paper. Over the past half-month, the system's fluid had only temporarily and forcibly stabilized the exhaustion of her vital organs. The extreme emotional fluctuation and violent movements just now had shattered the fragile balance inside her body. Her lips moved, seeming to want to say something to me, but what surged up into her throat was a horrifying mouthful of pitch-black blood. A pool of black blood splattered heavily across my white shirt, so burning hot that it made my entire body tremble. The entire hall erupted into even more terrified, screaming cries. Countless, dazzling strobe lights shone down upon us. Liu Ruyan's body as if drained of all strength, collapsed limply into my arms, her eyes tightly closed, showing no more response whatsoever. "Doctor, where's the doctor? Get your asses over here right now." I hugged her tightly, letting out a roar like a wild beast. Immediately, the top Swiss medical team from the audience rushed forward. The attending doctor quickly attached the heart rate monitor, holding her hand against her chest. Right the next second, the wavy line on the monitor suddenly stretched into a flat, straight line. The piercing, prolonged beeping sound instantly ripped through the atmosphere of the entire hall. Like a madman, I shoved aside the surrounding crowd, carrying Liu Ruyan, who lay in a pool of blood. "Prepare the car to the G family's private hospital," I yelled hoarsely, my voice shattered and cracked. "Warning, the target's hematopoietic stem cells have completely collapsed. Vital fluid no longer has the capacity to recover. Target's life expectancy due to acute damage 3 hours. The icy electronic voice of the system hit my brain like a sledgehammer. I kicked aside the reporters blocking her way. Lunging straight out of the Intercontinental Hotel, my SUV sped like a mad beast, wildly across the capital's streets, running through several consecutive red lights. The sirens of a series of traffic police cars chasing behind blared frantically. I couldn't care much about that anymore. In the back seat, Liu Ruyan's breathing was so faint that it was almost imperceptible, the rise and fall of her chest having completely stopped. System execute forced life retention. I bit down so hard on my molars, shivering on that body. My heart also became sour along with it, flooded with heartache. A girl who on the outside looked so adorable, naive and carefree like that, roaring frantically in my consciousness. Ding, vital fluid is exhausted, proceeding to overdraw the host's life force to convert into energy. Energy conversion successful. Target's heart has recovered a weak heartbeat. I stomped down hard on the gas pedal, pushing the car's speed to the absolute maximum. Limit straight to the G family private hospital. The red indicator light outside the emergency room shone brilliantly and blindingly. I leaned my back against the cold wall, my suit stained with streaks of the black blood she had vomited. The hallway sank into a dead silence with only the distant beep-beep of machinery echoing from inside the emergency room. 2 hours later, the emergency room doors finally opened. The chief surgeon, holding a critical illness report sheet, trembled as he walked up to me, not even daring to raise his head. "Jaizong, Miss Liu's hematopoietic stem cells have completely collapsed, and the residual inhibitory toxins have fully erupted. Ordinary medications are all ineffective. Even the most advanced equipment can no longer hold on to her life." I grabbed his collar, hoisting his entire body up. "Stop talking nonsense. How do we save her?" The doctor swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his voice trembling. "The only way is to perform a bone marrow transplant with extremely high risks to regenerate her hematopoietic system. However, within the bone marrow bank, the success rate of a compatible marrow donation is less than 1 in 100,000. With Miss Liu's current physical condition, I'm afraid she won't even last 3 days. It's fundamentally impossible to wait until suitable bone marrow is found." My eyes were bloodshot like a starved wolf, driven into a desperate corner. Without a moment of hesitation, I rolled up my shirt sleeves to reveal my arms, bulging with blue veins. "Draw it from me!" I roared, my vibrating voice making the entire hallway echo. "If it's not compatible, then just keep drawing. Drain my marrow until it matches." The doctor was so scared that his face drained of all color, retreating backward repeatedly. "Jizong, this is completely against medical regulations. Even blood relatives aren't guaranteed to match, let alone you having no blood relation. In the bank of tens of millions of samples, we couldn't even find a single matching one. Doing this is completely a waste of effort. My rules are the rules." I drew the pistol from my waist, slamming it hard against the medical cart next to me. The sharp clashing sound of metal made everyone tremble in sheer terror. "Draw blood for the marrow match right now." Several nurses trembled as they held syringes and tourniquets, stepping close. The thick needle poked into my vein drawing. 1 tube wasn't enough, so 10 tubes of blood were drawn. My dark red blood quickly filled several test tubes. The nurses' hands did not stop trembling. Blood tubes were immediately taken to the emergency testing lab. The hallway returned to a dead silence, leaving only my heavy, labored breathing. Ding detected that the host has intense willpower, initiating forced gene matching scan, ducting all system points, executing forced adjustment of gene sequence. Scan complete. Miracle appeared. The host's and target's bone marrow compatibility has reached 99.9%. Half an hour later, the laboratory door was kicked open. The head of the laboratory department raised the report sheet, with a face overflowing with disbelief, rushing out so fast that his glasses fell off without him even realizing it. In his hands, he held 2 comparison charts, his hands trembling violently. Compatible, Jizong. It's actually completely compatible. This is truly a miracle in medical history. A 1 in 100,000 probability was actually encountered by you. I let out a breath of relief, the nerves tightly strung like bowstrings gradually relaxing. Prepare for surgery immediately. The chief surgeon unexpectedly slammed down, with a loud thud, kneeling onto the floor. Jizong, please don't do this. Miss Liu's body is too weak and completely unable to withstand the rejection reaction. Besides, 3 years ago you were poisoned. Miss Liu's body is too weak and completely unable to withstand the rejection reaction. Moreover, 3 years ago you were poisoned in your bone marrow that are still hibernating. If you drain the marrow completely, it will directly activate the toxic backlash inside your body. Forced grafting is very likely to lead to a two-way rejection phenomenon. At that time, I'm afraid neither of you will be able to survive and step off the operating table. This is completely seeking your own death. I delivered a kick that sent him flying, looking down from above with a cold roar. If we die together. Prepare the operating room right now. Delay for even 1 second, and I'll make your whole family be buried with us. Right at this moment, the doors of several elevators at the end of the hallway simultaneously opened. Dozens of bodyguards wearing formal black traditional attire directly sealed off all entrances and exits of the entire floor. 3 elder patriarchs of the G family leaned on canes, under the tight escort and protection of bodyguards slowly walking forward. Great-uncle struck his cane heavily against the floorboards, producing dull heavy thuds. Bad at you. Are truly out of your mind just for a woman. You're going to push the entire foundation of the Jiu Corporation down into the abyss. Second uncle snorted coldly, pointing straight at the emergency room, his face overflowing with contempt. The head of the G family must absolutely not risk your life for a withered flower and ruined willow. If you die, who is going to manage the hundreds of billions in assets of the G family? The stock market tomorrow will surely collapse. Immediately stop this absurd surgery and throw that jinx out of here. Third uncle waved his hand in command. Dozens of bodyguards immediately drew their rubber batons, rushing toward the emergency room doors. Tie him up for me. I glared at these old bullying vampires who loved to lord their power over others. Normally, they hid in the shadows dividing up profits, but now they jumped out, ear pointing fingers and ordering people around. The corners of my mouth curled into a faint murderous smile. What the hell are you guys to dare interfere in my affairs? I reached my hand into my inner suit pocket, pulling out a golden patriarch seal carved with a dragon, symbolizing the supreme power of the G family. The eyes of great-uncle instantly lit up, revealing an unmasked greedy gaze. Consider yourself somewhat sensible, brat. Hand over the seal and obediently return to the corporation to take charge of the overall situation. We can magnanimously let bygones be bygones. However, before he could even finish his sentence, I raised the seal high and smashed it hard down onto the hard marble floor. Crash. In a split second, the seal was warped and shattered into 4 or 5 pieces, scattering right under great-uncle's feet. The entire hall was once again plunged into a dead silence. The 3 elders widened their eyes, simultaneously gasping in a breath of cold air, their eyes looking like they wanted to pop right out. You actually dare to destroy the patriarch seal, you daring rebellious punk. Drew my gun, aiming the muzzle straight at the forehead of the leading bodyguard. Get lost. I coldly swept my gaze across those old fogies about to drop into their graves. Without her, the G family is nothing more than funerary goods. For me, anyway, I choose the beauty and forsake the empire. Today, I'll act like a tyrant king. Whoever dares block my way, I'll send them to the grave first. Without the slightest hesitation, I pulled trigger. Bang, a deafening gunshot rang out the bullet, grazing past Great Uncle's scalp, flying away, and shattering the tempered glass panel behind him. The old man was so scared that his legs went limp, collapsing heavily onto the floor, his trousers dripping with a suspicious puddle of water. Dozens of bodyguards stared blankly at each other, backing away continuously. Not a single person dared to step forward another half step. Clean up the scene. I put away my gun and ordered my personal elite bodyguard unit. In less than a minute, the hallway had been cleaned up cleanly, without a single excess soul left. The night before the surgery, the entire hospital was sealed off tightly by my men, so tight that not even a fly could slip through. I had all the door-guarding bodyguards retreat outside put on thick sterile suit and gently pushed open Liu Ruyan's hospital room door. She was lying quietly on the narrow hospital bed, her face pale, the point of almost being translucent, her entire body plugged full of various life support tubes. I stepped forward, took off my shoes, gently lifted the corner of the blanket, and cautiously lay down beside her. The hospital bed was so narrow that I had no choice but to hug her tightly, pressing my body against hers to feel her fragile, weak body heat, looking at the countless crisscrossing injection marks scattered on her wrists. My heart ached sharply, as if being ground to pieces by a meat grinder. Ruyan's eyelashes suddenly trembled. She slowly opened her eyes, showing no trace of surprise nor any evasion. She just laboriously raised her hand, which had just been tended to, and with her fingertips gently stroked my stubbly face. "Ibadat, you really are a fool." Grasped her hand, pressing it tightly against my cheek, my tears uncontrollably rolling down and falling onto the back of her hand. "You're a real fool. Why didn't you tell me 3 years ago? Why did you endure everything all by yourself like that? Do you know what I've had to go through over the past 3 years?" The corners of Liu Ruyan's mouth pulled into a weak, fragile smile. "If I didn't go, they would cut off my supply of antidote. I just wanted you to live, even if you hate me, even if you kill me." Without any cliché misunderstandings, without any hysterical arguments in this cold, sterile room, we untied the knot in our hearts that had lasted for the past 3 years. I tightened my arms, pulling her into my embrace. "Tomorrow we'll go into the operating room together. I'll give you my bone marrow in exchange for your life." Liu Ruyan's eye sockets turned crimson. She didn't refuse, only burying her head in my chest. "Living or dying, we stay together, Suri." The next morning, the hallway was packed with the world's top medical experts. Liu Ruyan and I went on 2 mobile hospital beds placed right next to each other. I reached out and gripped her index finger tightly. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Liu Ruyan gripped my hand back, exerting strength as she nodded. With a loud thud, the operating room doors, heavy and slow, closed shut right before our eyes. The red light overhead suddenly lit up. Time ticked by minute by minute. The atmosphere outside the hallway was suppressed. The extreme. The bodyguards stood so straight that even their breathing was kept extremely low. 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, the red operating room light remained blindingly bright, the point of causing panic. Beep warning, the host's extracted bone marrow volume has reached the limit. Warning, the residual toxins inside the body are fully awakening, destroying the host's nervous system. Warning, the target is experiencing violent rejection reaction. The boundary of life is on the verge of collapse. The alarm bells of the system rang out frantically inside. My subconscious, a full 24 hours every single second, felt like walking on the edge of a knife. I felt as though my own soul was being drained bit by bit, but I bit down hard on the tip of my tongue, using sheer willpower to fight against the system's death countdown. Finally, a dull thud rang out. The operating room doors were shoved open forcefully. The chief surgeon staggered out. On his sterile suit, there were dazzling bright red bloodstains scattered all over. His mask had slipped down, revealing a face as white as a sheet of paper. He had barely stepped out 2 steps before his legs turned to jelly. With a thud, he collapsed onto the cold tile floor. He raised his head to look at the silent crowd outside the door, his eyes revealing the ultimate despair. Jizong, Jizong. He choked out a sob, his lips trembling for half a day, without being able to utter a complete sentence. My personal elite bodyguards directly drew their guns. The cold muzzles aimed straight at the doctor's forehead. What on earth happened to the head of the family? If the head of the family isn't saved, your whole hospital will be buried with him. The doctor collapsed to the ground in terror, wailing miserably. During the marrow extraction, Jizong's heart suddenly stopped. The toxins completely erupted. The defibrillator is already turned up to maximum power. By the head of the family, your hospital will be buried with them. The doctor collapsed to the ground in terror, wailing miserably. During the process, the two of us working together to build life that is increasingly prosperous and warm contact, still with no heartbeat. The entire hallway instantly plunged into chaos, bodyguards' eyes burning red as they madly battered the doors. Right at this moment, inside the operating room, separated by just a single door, my consciousness was plummeting down an endless abyss. Warning: host has suffered cardiac arrest. Vital signs dropping to 0. Toxins have pierced the cardiac defense line. System initiating. Mandatory self-destruction protocol countdown 10. The cold mechanical voice echoed in my head. All around was blinding white light. I felt my body like a dead leaf endlessly falling downward. 360 degrees. Prepare to clear out. BP. The doctor's frantic screams outside pierced through the darkness. High-intensity electric current made my body bounce high and then slam heavily back down onto the operating table. A burnt smell of scorched flesh drifted up. The electrocardiogram remained a flat line. Clear to Jizong, please wake up. Miss Liu's surgery is only half finished. Miss Liu Ruyan. These two names struck like a bolt of lightning against a chaotic consciousness. I cannot die. If I die, who will protect her? The remnants of the Zhao family are still lurking sinisterly in the shadows, and those old demonic ghouls could swallow her up at any moment. She took the poisoned arrow for me, enduring 3 years of bitterness and tasting every hardship in this world. I haven't even given her a proper wedding yet, so how could I dare to die? Get back down for me within the abyss of my subconscious. I let out a beast-like roar, bursting forth from the depths of my soul with earth-shattering power. I will conquer the endless darkness, crawling frantically toward that ray of light. Ding detected that the host's willpower has surged past biological limits, forcibly terminating the system's destruction protocol. Activating hidden passive skill, Nirvana Rebirth. Toxins completely purged. Hematopoietic stem cells perfectly fused. Vital signs forcibly pulled back. Beep, beep. Inside the operating room, the piercing alarm siren from a moment ago suddenly transformed into the steady, rhythmic beating of the electrocardiogram monitor. The chief surgeon holding the defibrillator froze in place, staring blankly at the wavy line on the monitor screen, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. A miracle. This is a miracle in medical history. Jizong has come back to life. His heartbeat has returned to normal. I jerked my eyes open, gasping heavily for breath. Sweat soaking my sterile suit, I turned, head on the operating table. Next to me, Liu Ruyan was wearing an oxygen mask, sleeping extremely peacefully through the blood transfusion tube, carrying my still warm bone marrow. Life was continuously flowing into her body. I curved my lips into a pale, bitter smirk. Even if the king of hell himself came to claim my soul, I would beat him back through the corridors of time. 1 year later, at the Golden Hall Music Theater, the building symbolizing the world's highest palace of music. Tonight, the lights blazed brilliantly. The giant crystal chandelier on the dome reflected a dazzling, magnificent radiance. Over 2,000 seats in Grand Hall were packed without a single empty space. The world's top classical music masters, long-established European aristocratic families, and top-tier elites of the financial world, all gathered here just to witness an unprecedented comeback in history. Before the concert began, in the VIP seating area, foreign blonde-haired, blue-eyed music critics were whispering to each other. I heard the protagonist. Knight used to be a cripple with shattered right arm bones, unable to even hold a baton steadily. Yet he dares to step onto the Golden Hall stage. Bet it's just that financial tycoon Ji from Huaguo, throwing around money to put on a show. If he plays everything completely wrong, later I want to see where Jibadat will put his face. I sat in the VIP room, in the center of the second floor swirling, a glass of chilled red wine coldly sweeping, a gaze across the gossiping, murmuring faces, below and sneered, hitting it completely wrong. Where should I put my badass monkey face? I sat in the VIP room, at the center of the second floor, hands shaking, eating a home-cooked meal auntie, telling stories about the future. My heart warmed tremendously. There were no empty cliché words, no expensive gifts, but simple happiness. So 201, with a mocking, intoxicated scoff, go ahead and mock away. You frogs at the bottom of the well. You fundamentally don't understand what true resurrection from the abyss 1205 really means. Suddenly, all the lights in the hall went pitch black, leaving only a dazzling spotlight shining straight down onto the center of the stage, illuminating a brand new Steinway piano, worth tens of millions. The entire hall instantly grew, quiet, silent to the point where even a pin dropping could be heard. The velvet curtain on the side of the stage slowly pulled open. Yunuyan, wearing a gorgeous gown, walked in with graceful steps under the spotlight. She wore a snow-white high-end couture gown, hand-stitched with tens of thousands of real South African diamonds along the hemline that, with every step she took, looked like a flowing, sparkling galaxy. Tantu 21. After spending a year being nourished by the finest things she had long since shed, her past frailty and emaciation, her snow-white skin and noble aura, left people too intimidated to look her in the eye. The once peerless, talented socialite beauty of the upper class had finally returned to the throne that belonged to her. The entire hall let out gasps of deep breath, countless elites being shocked by her beauty. Uruyan walked up to the piano and gracefully sat down. She took a deep breath, slowly raising her hands that had gone through countless complex corrective surgeries, right at her fingertips. A second before touching the black and white keys, abnormality struck her right hand, suddenly and uncontrollably, convulsed violently. Its 5 fingers stiff and twisted like tangled tree roots, completely unable to straighten out. The stage instantly erupted into a wave of commotion. Look at that, her hand is shaking. She can't even straighten her fingers. What kind of piano is she going to play? Get off the stage already. Those foreign music critics didn't even bother to hide it anymore, bursting out in mocking laughter. I jumped up fiercely, both hands gripping brass railing of the VIP room so hard that my knuckles instantly turned white. The system has already restored her bones and nerves, so this is purely a psychological stress reaction. It's a soul wound, left behind from 3 years of being tortured by others. Ruyan, hold on, I roared frantically in my heart. 264. On stage. Liu Ruyan did not back down, nor panic. She slowly closed her eyes. A crystal-clear tear slid down the corner of her eye, falling onto the piano keys and splashing into tiny droplets. I saw right through what she was thinking. She must have remembered that dark, gloomy underground basement, remembered my desperate punches against the bulletproof glass, remembered when we lay on 2 operating tables side by side, swearing to live and die together. Those heartbreaking pasts did not defeat her. Instead, they transformed into a terrifying, earth-shattering strength. At this very moment, Liu Ruyan suddenly opened her eyes wide, shooting a sharp, terrifying glint from her gaze. She bit down hard on her lower lip, relying on an immense willpower that ordinary people could never imagine, forcibly flattening her convulsing right hand. Amshi struck down hard on the opening chord. The deep, heavy, and explosive piano notes instantly pierced through the entire golden hall. The hall's commotion fell dead silent. Everyone was struck dumb, shocked by this sudden surge of power. No flashy techniques, no repetitive, dazzling fingering patterns that made people dizzy. Her injured fingers truly could no longer play those technically maxed out pieces anymore. But the piece she was playing was a brand new original composition, composed by herself. Rebirth. The opening piano notes, pressed and suffocating, at first felt like someone trapped in a dark, muddy marsh, heavy and fierce, overflowing, with explosive power instantly piercing through the entire golden hall. Commotion of the whole venue fell silent. Everyone was shocked by this sudden surge of power, leaving them frozen in place. There was no fancy technique, no repetitive fingerings that made people's eyes spin. My fingers, having once been injured indeed, could no longer play those pieces whose techniques had reached that limit. But the piece I am playing is a completely brand new original piece, composed by my self-reincarnation. The sound of the piano at first was suppressed and suffocating, feeling vaguely like someone stuck in a pitch-black swamp, darkness struggling desperately. In those piano notes, there was blood, tears, loneliness, and desolation. When abandoned by the entire world, the audience below were instantly pulled into that suffocating vortex of emotions. Those music critics, who had been mocking just moments ago, now widened, their eyes so big they even forgot how to breathe. Right after, piano notes suddenly shifted, like lightning tearing apart, the night sky winds howling and ocean waves crashing. Liu Ruyan's fingers flew madly across the keys, mashing every ounce of agonizing suffering her body had endured, the endless despair her soul had experienced, into pieces upon these black and white keys. This wasn't just playing music. This was using flesh and bone to roar out most furious defiance against fate. Oh God, this emotional power! An international piano grandmaster, sitting in the front row, was trembling violently all over with agitation, ripping off his reading glasses and letting his aged tears stream down. This is true music. This is art that strikes straight at the soul. She has dedicated her entire soul to this piano. The music grew, more and more surging, higher and higher, resembling fire-bathed phoenix of rebirth, tearing through every shackle and suffering, embracing the engulfing flames and soaring straight up to the 9 heavens. When the final note heavily rang out and ended, Uruyan's hands hovered mid-air, her chest heaving violently. Lingering sound vibrated against everyone's eardrums. The entire hall fell dead, silent, with over 2,000 people present, where even the sound of a pin dropping to the floor could be heard. Right after that clap, that international piano grandmaster abruptly stood up, raising both hands high above, his head clapping frantically. This action acted like a fuse dropped into a powder keg with a bang. The entire audience stood up in unison. Thunderous applause and enthusiastic, passionate screams seemed to flip the dome of the Golden Hall upside down in a flash. Too amazing, unbelievable. This is a miracle. The queen of the piano world has returned. The critics, who had been shouting so loudly earlier, now turned red with shame. They clapped desperately, their palms turning red without them even realizing it. Liu Ruyan slowly stood up, her eye sockets crimson, tears welling up. She didn't stand there, enjoying the audience's adoration, but instead abruptly lifted her head, casting her gaze toward the VIP room on the 2nd floor. Our eyes met in mid-air. I smiled, turned around, and pushed open the VIP room door. The spotlight instantly shifted, locking tightly onto me. I wore a tailored, perfectly fitted black high-end suit, holding in my hand a bouquet of fresh red roses, as bright red as blood, taking large strides as I walked down the stairs. The audience's applause gradually subsided as everyone automatically cleared a path for me. I walked on the red carpet step by step, heading toward her in the center of the stage. Reaching the side of piano, I shoved that bouquet of red roses into her arms. Then, under the witness of the world's elites, I stepped half a step back, knelt down on one knee, and from my inner suit pocket hooked out a pink diamond the size of a pigeon egg, which I had prepared for a full 4 years. Yibo, Ruyan. I raised my head to look at this woman whom I loved, to the very marrow of my bones, my voice transmitting across the hall through the microphone. 3 years ago, you owed me a wedding. Today, in front of the entire world, you must repay it with interest. Liu Ruyan burst into tears, her floodgates completely broken. She nodded frantically, crying incoherently. I'll repay it. I'll use my whole life to repay you. Stood up, forcefully pulling her left hand and sliding that sparkling diamond ring onto her slender ring finger. After that, reached out my arm to wrap around the back of her neck, pulling her tightly into my embrace, and lowered my head to dominantly kiss her lips. Left hand wearing that sparkling diamond ring onto your slender ring finger. Then, reaching out a long arm to hug the back of your neck, pulling you hard into my arms, bowing my head to dominantly kiss your lips. The entire hall once again exploded with deafening cheers, strobe lights flashing frantically to preserve this moment, forever at the pinnacle of world music history. Ding detected that the host and target have happiness indices, surpassing the limit point. Main storyline mission completed to perfection. System permanently bound. The final notification sound echoed in my head. I closed my eyes to deepen this kiss. I am willing to bear all suffering. My woman deserves to stand forever at the